All right, y'all. We got 30 minutes here. 30 minutes on the clock before I do a one-on-one session with a client. So let's get right to it. The investigation into vitamin A, there's been so many surprises. Surprising to find that there are over 50 documented symptoms of vitamin A toxicity, and there also happens to be over 50 named autoimmune diseases. So almost every single significant symptom of vitamin A toxicity, there is a correspondingly named autoimmune disease. The one that is most troubling and the one that is the most perplexing is that the symptoms of vitamin A deficiency are a perfect match with the same symptoms of toxicity. So how's that happening? It would be like people dying of dehydration and they have the same symptoms of someone dying of drowning. It's illogical. So nothing is adding up with this vitamin A story. Is it a deadly toxin or is it a critical vitamin? It cannot be both. You can't have something that's an essential vitamin also being used as chemotherapy. Another crazy question is, why would the human body build such a critical dependency upon a toxic molecule? That dependency is not impossible, but it is very strange. Millions of years, evolution, God's creation, Mother Nature, why would we have such a dicey dependency upon a toxic molecule? And I'm going to read some notes from Grant Chenru's book, Poisoning for Profits, from his introduction. He says, other areas of my investigation revealed many more apparent paradoxes and completely conflicting pieces of information. Additionally, in the various studies regarding vitamin A, almost all the contradictions and paradoxes are conventionally explained away or glossed over, and done so with completely unsubstantiated rationalizations. Many of the so-called medical experts who blame illness on vitamin A deficiency, they are either just making it up, blindly restating unsupportable prior theories as being fact, or just downright fabricating and obfuscating and slandering study results to fit a pre-established narrative. Sadly, it goes way beyond that. I could have never imagined that medical science was so rife with blatant scientific fraud. Moreover, after carefully reading the very detailed descriptions by leading ophthalmologists of the progression of tissue destruction in the eye due to xerophthalmia, which is chronic dry eyes, it was an exact match for the description and progression of the tissue destruction I witnessed under a microscope with my own skin due to eczema. It was not just an approximate match or a very close match, it was an absolutely perfect match. He says, yes, I knew all about those little cone-shaped piercing blisters. So he's talking about the way eczema looks under a microscope. Eczema under a microscope looks like a cone-shaped piercing blister, and xerophthalmia, chronic dry eyes, looks the same way. The only difference is the named organ where the tissue destruction was taking place. However, somehow, more than 100 years of modern medicine has failed to see the obvious. They are indeed one and the same condition, occurring in two different organs. It was immediately clear to me that xerophthalmia and eczema are the same condition occurring in both the epithelial tissues of the eye and the epidermis. Goes on to say, quote, of course, the leading theory in ophthalmology, and that promoted by the WHO, the World Health Organization, is that xerophthalmia is the direct result of vitamin A deficiency. Although I am making an explanation here, xerophthalmia is effectively eczema of the eye. Thus, with the de facto causation theory of xerophthalmia being that of vitamin A deficiency, we should be able to conversely apply the same causation theory to eczema, meaning the leading theory in the causation of eczema should also be vitamin A deficiency too. Therefore, just one of the great contradictions I want to highlight here is that there are now 30 million people in North America with eczema, various degrees of severity. There is absolutely no way that those people are vitamin A deficient. There's simply no way even the tiniest fraction of them are vitamin A deficient. So how in the hell is that vitamin A deficiency can cause xerophthalmia in the eye due to vitamin A deficiency, and for us to have exactly the same condition in the skin to occur in 30 million people who are clearly not vitamin A deficient? However, once you factor into the equation that the tissue of the skin and the eye are both this beautifully structured, stratified epithelial tissue and the very well proven destruction too much vitamin A will induce in this particular tissue structure, the mystery and contraindications disappear. What you're about to learn is that the truth is that xerophthalmia is not caused by vitamin A deficiency at all. Rather, it is the exact opposite. Vitamin A toxicity is what causes it. Of course, I'm only scratching the surface here regarding the obvious inconsistencies and contradictions in the vitamin A story. The other primary and obvious contradiction, somehow also still being glossed over by modern medical science, is that if we are all so at risk of vitamin A deficiency and its horrible, if not deadly consequences of going blind, how is it that we are here as a species at all? It is so gigantically illogical. This, by itself, should have quickly thrown the vitamin A deficiency theory into the scientific trash can of nonsense. For example, some of the early experiments putting animals, dogs, rabbits, chickens, and most often rats, on vitamin A deficient diets, and for them to quickly develop the systemic and catastrophic destruction of all their epithelial tissues, should have raised serious questions as to the validity of the design of their experiments. In dogs, the epithelial destruction happened as quickly as in 4 weeks. In rats, it was around 8 to 10 weeks. Naturally, most of the animals died shortly after that. Therefore, how is that even possible for animals to be this critically susceptible to a vitamin A deficiency and still be on our planet as a species? Having such a disastrous inherent design flaw resulting in the eyes and many other organs to quickly start self-destructing and to ultimately fail due to vitamin A deficiency in just 8 weeks would immediately rule these animals, and us too for that matter, out of evolutionary existence. So basically he's showing, and this makes complete sense, how do you have the cornerstone research of vitamin A deficiency? These animals died in 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks. It makes no sense. All these species would have gone extinct. Without vision, any animal would quickly be eaten by predators. And if that did not kill them, they would not be able to find their own food. In other words, if this design flaw did exist in any species, then that species would have long ago become extinct. Therefore, the various experiments believed to have proven vitamin A deficiency were so blatantly flawed that anyone's grandmother could have told them that they had gotten it wrong. The experiments just do not pass the litmus test of common logic, and they most certainly cannot stand up against even the most trivial amounts of critical thinking. In other words, these early scientists failed to ask the very most basic and fundamental questions. Biologically speaking, and in an evolutionary context, how is it possible for us to be here? One winter would have wiped out nearly all of the species and us from the planet. Seriously, can you imagine the skin and eyes disintegrating, burning off in midwinter, weeping lymph fluid, and so easily becoming infected in just 8 weeks, and yet these species have survived and survived very well over tens of millions of winters? Talk about missing the obvious. What I know from my early years growing up on a farm is that rats can winter for at least 9 months, living on nothing but grain. Rats do extremely well for 9 months or more without a single molecule of vitamin A in their diets. This makes perfect sense. You know, they do this study, they kill these rats in 8 to 10 weeks. They say it's vitamin A deficiency, yet rats can live 9 months or more without a single molecule of vitamin A in their diet. They have perfect vision, they remain in great health. The bigger ones can grow to be about a third the size of a house cat. They have high energy levels, vigorous, and ferociously defend their territory. They reproduce just like rats. They're doing this on a quote-unquote vitamin A deficient winter diet. He says, but don't take my word for it. Just ask any prairie grain farmer if a rat can live all winter long on grain alone. Therefore, a simple grain farmer could have so easily debunked all the ridiculous vitamin A deficiency theory from the esteemed academics in a matter of minutes. It appears that these academics had a complete disconnect from nature, reality, and a sensible logical thinking too. With these very basic and obvious facts, the entire premise of vitamin A deficiency is nothing more than a complete myth. It is simply impossible, except for possibly in the most ridiculously long-term and extreme periods of starvation. But what you'll soon learn, animals and humans will die of starvation before they are truly vitamin A deficient. In other words, both animals and humans will die first due to prolonged starvation before their eyes ever fail. And once again, from an evolutionary point of view, this is perfectly logical too, because the body needs to maintain the eyes and vision to the very end of life. So what happened here? How could all these early researchers have gotten this so incredibly wrong? So that's the question we have to investigate. We have to reopen the cold case. We have to be determined. And we have to know that vitamin A is not a vitamin at all. And the surprising truth and the tough pill to swallow, no pun intended, it's not a vitamin. It's a complete myth. It's based on bad science. So-called vitamin A is by far more of a toxin than it is a vitamin. And the sad truth is that it is a toxic molecule that has now killed tens of millions of people, and that's just in the last few decades. And on top of that, there are more than 100 million people in North America who are right now walking around wounded due to the destruction of their epithelial tissues and associated organs. So what we're all going to learn is that the names given to these chronic diseases simply just hide the fact that most of them are all the same disease. Why are they the same disease? Because they are the disease of one specific tissue category, and it is the epithelial tissues. The names of chronic diseases are obfuscations, okay? And they're pretty much meaningless labels. To make this point crystal clear, consider the following points. Diabetes is a disease of the pancreatic epithelial tissue. Eczema is a disease of the skin, which is a stratified epithelial tissue of the epidermis. Heart disease and stroke are diseases of the epithelial tissue linings of the blood vessels. Multiple sclerosis, it's a disease of the epithelial tissues making up the myelin sheaths wrapping around the nerves. IBD, irritable bowel. Crohn's, colitis, these are diseases of the epithelial tissues making up the lower digestive tract. Cataracts is the disease of the epithelial tissue making the lens of the eye. Xerophthalmia, chronic dry eyes, is the disease of epithelial tissues of the tear ducts and other glands within the eye. Asthma is a disease of the epithelial tissues of the lungs. The same applies to many of the other named chronic diseases. They can be more appropriately and correctly named as epithelial disease. However, we got to be a bit more precise. These are epithelial poisonings, and there is only one potential poison in our foods that can be responsible for all of this, and it's vitamin A. And the reason there's only one potential culprit is because people are eating and consuming and ingesting and taking in this poison in an unreasonable amount like history has never ever seen before. I'm just pinning one of ones to the top. One of one's, quick plug, is our wellness community, over 600 people thriving on a low vitamin A diet, but there's also physical training, spiritual training, breath work, brain training, recipes, supplements, which ones are safe. We cover it all. We're an all-encompassing wellness company, and we are master curators where we just take the best from the people getting it right, and we use that as a lifestyle to live by, and we're doing very, very well. So this poisoning of vitamin A, the incredible irony is that vitamin A doesn't even protect against dry eyes, as claimed by the experts in ophthalmology and the World Health Organization. It actually causes dry eyes, and amazingly, it causes cataracts too. So unbelievably, these self-proclaimed experts and proponents of vitamin A supplementation, they got it completely and perfectly and literally got it backwards. So if any ophthalmologist happens to be hearing this or reading what we're saying, the truth of the matter is, you can say this with supreme confidence, is that vitamin A is causing the destruction of the vision in tens of millions of people around the world. And we should be very concerned about that. And once we realize this fact, we should be spreading this far and wide and telling anyone and everyone, because we are not wrong. Grant Rue is not wrong. Dr. Garrett Smith is not wrong. I am not wrong. You can go read this research for yourself and see how severely flawed it is. Okay? And if anybody wants to put their money up, put your money up. So what Grant Rue did in this book, Poisoning for Profits, and it's a free book. The website is gjinru.blog. He took an extremely deep dive in the evolution of the very discovery of vitamin A. Okay, you got to go back to the origin story. And from there, you can carefully investigate the subsequent follow-on vitamin A deficiency theory and then the supporting experiments. And as you see this investigation, you're going to enter an alternative universe where things are flipped upside down. Scientific facts are fabrications. They're vague, they're confusing, they're conflicting. What does this sound like? People are lost. People are depending on anonymous strangers on Twitter for their health advice. So the evidence we present in all these findings, Grant's books, Anthony Mawson's works, Dr. Garrett Smith's live streams, you will come to the same conclusion that vitamin A is not a vitamin. And if you do the work, if you do the heavy lifting, if you read both of Grant Rue's books, if you read Anthony Mawson's research, if you watch Dr. Garrett Smith's live stream, and if you still think vitamin A is a vitamin after that, you have to go get your head examined. You're either in on it or your IQ is very, very low, dangerously low. It's an imposter. It does not belong on the list of essentials. And we're going to prove that every day. because of how many people it is hurting. And I don't care how crazy people think I am. I don't care what these idiots say online. This is the truth of the matter, and I've never been more confident about anything in my entire life. This is not some scientific blunder. This is not some accident. This is a catastrophic lie that has affected human health around the globe, especially in the West, especially in these modernized nations. By giving it the prestigious vitamin designation, by calling a highly toxic molecule a vitamin, and then fortifying it and supplementing it into our major foods, it is resulting in mass poisoning at an unbelievable scale. This is one of the biggest lies we have ever been told. Once you dive into it, you realize why. You might think I sound crazy at first. Once you go read the terms and conditions, you go, holy shit. Your jaw will be on the floor too. And the resulting death toll is easily now in the tens of millions. Hundreds of millions are chronically diseased right now. No drama, no clickbait. Check the scoreboard. People are suffering from autoimmune disease. Every single autoimmune disease is a disease of the epithelial tissue. Every single one of them has consumed this fat-soluble toxin that they named a vitamin in an unreasonable amount. Today I was at Publix. I picked up a Prime hydration drink to check the label. They got 100% RDA vitamin A in it. If you look at most multivitamins have 150 to 200% of the RDA of vitamin A. Why? That would be saying, hey, person taking this multivitamin, you cannot eat any more vitamin A in your entire day. But they know that's not the case because most people are eating dairy, they're eating eggs, they're eating pork, they're eating colorful plants, they're taking liver, they're taking fish oil, or God forbid they've been on Accutane or Retin-A, which severely, acutely poisons people. Then they call this drink hydration. How does vitamin A hydrate the cells if the Accutane survivors suffer from chapped lips for years? We had a girl 20 years chapped lips, finally got rid of her chapped lips. 20 years she had chapped lips, Accutane as a teen. Imagine having chapped lips for 20 years of your life, and then you want to put this thing in a drink and call it hydration? Now, listen, I don't think that the Paul brothers even know. I don't think that these Tate brothers even know. I don't think any of these influencers even know when they come out with these complexes and these blends and these drinks and these powders. They're just going with the herd of like, hey, I'm making a vitamin and like, who's the guy to hire? But who does know? And who's going to be brave enough and confident enough to speak on this, right? I don't care about becoming friends with any of these people. I don't care about becoming cool or looking a certain way because what's right is right. And at first, when you have a truth bomb like this, of course you're gonna look crazy and stupid, right? That's how the herd gets you. That's how people say, you know what? I've done 1,000 hours of research, and that thought sometimes creeps in my head, and then I immediately dismiss the thought because I know I'm right about this. And it's not even me who's right. It's the freaking fact, the scientific fact. I'm arguing with people online who are citing the first page of Google. If they lied about the news, if they lied about history, what else do you think they lied about or messed up? 8 minutes on the clock before I go on a one-on-one coaching call here. What do you get in a coaching call with me? I tell you what blood test to get. I tell you what hair mineral test to get. We go over your symptoms. We go over your history. And then I put together a game plan. And it's a money-back guarantee if you're not feeling better. And then you get a 30, 60, 90-day follow-up call. And then you get 24/7 access to me via text message. And you get put in a special group with other clients. And you get a lifetime membership to One of Ones. If you don't have the money for that, that's fine. One of Ones is $10 a month. It's less than a pack of cigarettes. It's a group of like-minded individuals who are just leveling up with these facts. I post recipes. I post studies all the time. I don't have to post studies or research for people on Twitter. I can leave breadcrumbs. We can do whatever we want, especially when you know you're right. Because most people who are asking for a source and a study, they've already made their mind up, and they don't even want to admit that this is a reality. Why is this hard to admit it's a reality? It's fat soluble. That means your liver takes the bullets. The liver can take the bullets for years, guys. It wasn't until I was in my early 20s that I got my first signs of vitamin A toxicity, which were heartburn and itchy skin. Went to the doctor, wanted to prescribe me heartburn pill. Went to the dermatologist, wanted to prescribe me something for my itchy skin. I said, how long do I have to take these? They said, forever. I said, no, that's insane. I can't. I'm 20. That's when I first found gluten-free and dairy-free. Went gluten-free, went dairy-free. Within a week, my heartburn was gone. Within 2 weeks, my itchy skin was gone. And then I started to think I was smart. As I got into my late 20s and early 30s, I started to Oh, I'm good now. I'll eat dairy, I'll eat eggs, I'll eat the colorful plants, I'll take fish oil, I'll take liver. My heartburn was cured. My itchy skin was a thing of the past. But then all of a sudden I started to get new symptoms. Thinning hair, neuropathy, gallstones. So I wasn't getting the heartburn, I wasn't getting the itchy skin, but now new things were starting to arise. My vitamin A toxicity was back and it was starting to express itself in a different way. 35 years, in August I'll be 40, right around 36, 37, started to get the neuropathy on my left side, started to get a bunch of other things happening. And then what we know now is, okay, I'm 6 months on a low vitamin A diet. I just got my blood work this morning. Within a week, we will all see what my vitamin A serum levels are. They have likely gone up. Okay, we're seeing it take up to 3 years for those serum levels to go down. How could you ever have a vitamin A deficiency if it takes 3 years for it to leave the liver? Grant Jinru has been on a low vitamin A diet for 9 years, and he's saying he's still getting better. So of course, right? 30 years, 40 years, 50 years of accumulation. See how much of a miracle machine our bodies are, that in 3 years you can get rid of 40 years of intake. See how much the body hates this thing and wants to get rid of it. We're tracking it on blood. We're tracking it. The reason liver is so bad to eat is because liver takes the bullets for the body. That's the real reason liver is so high in vitamin A and copper. That's the reason these idiots are calling liver a multivitamin. But what they don't know is this liver is storing that to protect all the other tissue, to protect your blood, to protect your organs. Well, once your commander in chief, the liver, has reached a saturation point, it's like a bucket in your backyard getting filled to the top. Now it's a spillover. Now it's retinoic acid unleashed into your cells, destroying your organ, burning skin from the inside out, eczema, psoriasis. What we know is the more you do it, the worse and worse it gets. The more it goes into other organs. It's absolutely diabolical, and it is the absolute truth. And this is why retinoic acid, is used as a chemotherapy drug. They use retinoic acid as a chemotherapy drug because of the way it destroys stem cells, all the cells. The concept is we're going to destroy the cancer. We're also going to destroy your cells, and then we're going to stop, and hopefully you grow back okay, right? You have a clean slate. A lot of people don't come back okay, but that's how a miracle the body is, and that's why people lose their hair. That's why they lose their appetite. That's why all these horrible things happen to them, because they're getting poisoned with retinoic acid. It's diabolical. It is not the answer. The answer is to stop the intake of the poison. Guys, our people are not becoming sicker and sicker and sicker because of bad luck or genetics. It's not a bacteria. It's not a virus. It is poisoning, straight up. There's no other way to slice it. Once you show people what the poisoning is and why it is, it becomes a lot easier for them to stop ingesting the poisons. It's a lot easier to say no to that piece of whatever when you know that thing destroys your cells. And a lot of these things have to get hidden with taste and flavors and sugars. Liver tastes like trash. Most of these high vitamin A vegetables taste like garbage, and as a child, you didn't want to eat any of them until you were convinced that they were good for you and that you add seasonings and fats. Saute it, add this to it. Majority of these plants that we call vegetables that these idiots say are good for you are hybrids of the mustard plant or the wild cabbage plant. If you saw these plants in nature, you would walk right over them. Tomato is the most popular vegetable in the world. It's not even a vegetable, it's a fruit. It's a nightshade high in vitamin A, and it is causing inflammation and vitamin A toxicity. What's the most popular food with it? Cheese, more vitamin A. Are you starting to see why everybody's sick? Oh, but food is entertainment now. So here's the thing. Okay, you don't have to be a maniac like me and never eat these foods again. You can get yourself to a lower amount where you're doing good and eat them once in a while, because the liver will take care of that for you. This is what aging is. Aging isn't years. Aging isn't wear and tear. Aging is how much have you been poisoning yourself. That's what aging is. How much have you been poisoning yourself with what you think was supposed to be healthy for you? That's why people say, oh, I eat healthy. What does that mean? I got to go. One-on-one coaching client. Guys, been swell. I'll be back in a little bit. Let's level up. Spread the word. Vitamin A is no chance it's a vitamin. It was a discovery by a scientist in the early 1900s who was trying to win a Nobel Peace Prize, and they got it wrong. They got it wrong. And now we're here to make it right. Hallelujah, holla back, 3:30 p.m. Peace out. One of ones, thortorrens.com. It's time to level up. We are Big Pharma's worst nightmare. We are Bill Gates' worst nightmare. Bill Gates is trying to fortify Africa and Southeast Asia with vitamin A, golden rice, golden bananas. Do you trust Bill Gates or do you trust us? Bill Gates thinks it's a vitamin. He thinks it's one of the most important vitamins to give to everyone. Who do you trust?